Hello everyone, I am back with another video. I have had a couple of requests from some new people, new subscribers that are wanting to start stamping, and so they asked me to do a basic video on the different types of stamps and how to use them. So I would like to go ahead and share my knowledge. I'm by no means an expert on stamping, but it is something that I enjoy very much. So I'll share with you what I know, and hopefully it'll help you. First off, I'll start about talking about a couple of the different types of inks. These are just a few that I have. I have the StaysOn inks, which is a solvent ink. There's a little bit of controversy about these, the StaysOn solvent inks. Some people say it ruins your stamps. I personally have been using it for years and have not had a problem with that. I clean my stamps immediately after stamping them, so maybe that's the difference, I don't know. And then there's another popular brand is Memento ink. That is a fade resistant dye ink. Basically dye inks, solvent inks, let me back up for a second. The StaysOn, which is a solvent ink, it dries very quickly, but you don't want to use it when you're coloring with markers because it will smudge or smear unless you emboss it with clear first. But for coloring, my best choice would be the Memento. That's what's recommended for Copic coloring and any other alcohol-based markers. I do not have, like the water-based markers, the distressed markers that just came out by Tim Holtz. I don't know much about that, but I do know Memento is a great ink also. And then you have your pigment inks, which is this little Studio G one. These come in all different brands, shapes, sizes. This is just one brand that I have. Pigment inks dry a little bit slower than dye inks and solvent inks, and you can emboss with them if you're quick enough. I never am quick enough, so I just choose to use my Versamark. But pigment ink is a good choice. You get a nice clear crisp image with it. And then there's chalk inks, which is this other little Studio G one that I have. These are a little bit more muted when you stamp them. They don't have crisp lines. I should say not as crisp as using a dye or pigment based ink. And then there's the Versamark, which is a watermark stamp pad. This is used for, you can stamp this directly onto your paper and make a background that is like a tone-on-tone background. Or you can use this for using your embossing powders and heat tool. But that's a whole nother video. That's just another type of ink there. So let me move these out of the way, and I will tell you a little bit about the different types of stamps there are, and then I'll show you how to use each one. Okay, first I'm going to start with wood-mounted stamps, and I'm hoping I'm in frame. This is the first time I've used this camera angle, so bear with me. These are wood-mounted stamps. These have been around for ages. If you turn it over, you'll see it's a red rubber stamp. It has some cling cushion there. That's just for a little bit of cushioning spring for when you stamp. And then it's mounted to a wood block. That's why they're generally called wood-mounted stamps, because they're mounted on wood. Pretty basic. Okay, and then we have clear stamps, and these are clear acrylic stamps. This is just a small Studio G stamp that I have. There's many brands and types, designs, but it's kind of hard to explain. These clear stamps, they come in clear acrylic, or there's photopolymer. Photopolymer looks basically the same, and let me take this one out of the package so you can see it. They look the same, they both look clear. Photopolymer sometimes discolors, which is normal. That's this one here. The one thing that you'll notice, a big difference, there's a couple of big differences between regular clear acrylic and photopolymer. Photopolymer is firmer to the touch. It's stickier, so it holds your ink better, and therefore you get a crisper image when you stamp it. I don't discriminate against any kind of stamp. I love them all. They all have good qualities, and they all have, you know, a few pros and cons, but, you know, a lot of people swear by photopolymer. They are more expensive than the regular clear acrylics, so, you know, it's up to you what you can afford and what you like. I like them all, so I buy them all. Well, not all, but I try to buy them all, but I kind of run out of money before I can get them all. So then, the next type of stamp we have is an unmounted red rubber stamp. Now this one is mounted, and what I mean by mounted is I have it mounted on cling foam. This comes sold separately, usually in sheets of 9 by 12 or 9 by 11, and what you do is you trim out your stamp, and you one side of the cling mount is sticky, which adheres to your stamp, and then the other side is the cling, which clings to your acrylic blocks. So let me just talk a little bit about acrylic blocks. Just one second, let me double check my time on my video. Okay, I'm doing all right for a minute here. There are several different types of acrylic blocks, and I'm hoping you're not going to get too much of a glare off of these. These are just a few that I chose out of my collection. I probably have about 15 or 20 blocks in all different sizes and shapes. This one here is out of the dollar bin at one of the craft stores. It's kind of on the thin side for me, but I do use them. I do like them. This one here is just a different shape, but it is thicker than the other one, which, let me show you the difference in the thickness. You know, this one is about twice as thick as this one. I like the thicker ones myself because they're easier to grip and stamp without your fingers hitting the bottom of the mat while you're trying to stamp. And then there's these. I like these for the grips on the side. It's easier. It doesn't slip out of your fingers. Many a times have I dropped an acrylic block with an inked up stamp on it and had ink everywhere. These blocks are nice. I don't know if you can see it or not. I'm hoping you can. They have a grid pattern on them. The reason for that is it helps you line up your images or your sentiments when you're stamping, so you know if you're stamping straight or crooked. So that's a little bit about you know, the acrylic blocks. They come in all sizes. Those are just a few. And then there's Fiskars makes a big stamp press, which is this baby here, and I love to use this here for when I have bigger stamps, clear stamps that I want to make sure they get aligned straight and all this. All you do is you flip it over, you put your stamp on there, you ink it up, you turn it back over, put both hands on each of the corners, even gentle pressure. And then what I like to do is just walk my fingers to the center of the stamping press to make sure I get a good even connection between the stamp and the paper. So that's how stamp press works, and these are great for if you want to stamp more than one image at a time. Like say you're doing a landscape, you know, and you have some grass and some flowers and a house or something you want to stamp all at one time, and you have it all arranged pretty, and you know exactly where you want it on your paper. You put it on this, stamp it all at once, and there you go. It takes a little bit of the guesswork out of it. Alright, so that covers most of the basics. I'm going to stop here and make a part 2 to this video, which will show you some actual stamping and how to align your stamps on your clear blocks and that sort of thing. Alright, thanks for watching. Join me for part 2, please. Thank you. Hello everyone, welcome back. This is part 2 of Stamping Basics for Beginners. Just sharing some of my knowledge of stamping. I am not an expert by any means. Let's see, I left off talking about clear blocks, and I was getting ready to show you a little bit of stamping and how to align your stamps on the blocks. First though, I'd like to show you another useful tool in the stamping world. This here is called a stamp-a-ma-jig. Okay, it's just a stamp positioner. It comes with this little plastic sheet, and all you do is you position this at the right angle in the corner there, and then you take your stamp, inked up of course, and you go straight down, stamp it on the sheet. Then you can take the sheet and you can place it on your project exactly where you want it, and then you take the positioner back into the corner like that, and then you remove the sheet, ink up your stamp again, and then stamp straight down, and it'll be exactly where you want it on your project. That is excellent to have for wood mounted stamps. It also works with clear stamps. If you're going to use it for clear stamps, I would recommend that you use it with a clear block that has, you know, a perfect edge like this. The words are escaping me. 90-degree angle? Yeah? Something like that? You know, a corner instead of a rounded corner like this. And over here, in frame, yeah. Rounded corner, not good for the stamp-a-ma-jig. This kind of corner, great for the stamp-a-ma-jig. Alright, so let's move along. Clear stamps. Okay, this one I already have. Let me get a piece of paper over here. Just a second here, I have stamps in the way. Alright, this one I already put on the block, but what I'll do is I'll go ahead and take it off so I can show you how I position it. What I do is I just put the stamp wherever I want it on my project. But you don't have to do it on your project. I just do that, and then I usually line it up with the grid lines to make sure it's on my block straight, and then just press down and it will cling to your block. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and stamp a couple of the different inks for you so you can see the differences in the inks. Okay, first I'm going to use the StazOn ink, just inking up my stamp, and then, oh, doesn't look like I got it inked all the way. Sorry. I need to re-ink my ink pad. It's getting a little dried out. Okay, that looks good enough for purposes of the video. So you just ink it up and then straight down onto your page. Give it a little firm pressure, and then straight back up. Now that didn't give me a perfect image. Why didn't it give me a perfect image? because I gave it uneven pressure. That's why the sides are cut off. So what I would do in that case is I would ink my stamp back up, and I would come back in, and it's hard to do because I don't want to put my head in the way, but what I would do is just ink my stamp up, line it up, and then straight down, and you can fix most mistakes with clear stamps that way. So you know, just pretend this is a good image here, you know, crisp, clean, perfect stamp image. This is the solvent ink. This is the StazOn. If you look at the fine lines, you can see how crisp they are. This area up here looks really good. That's what stamping is supposed to look like when you're done. Not this over here. So that's the StazOn ink. Let me just clean my stamp real quick. And I use just baby wipes to clean my stamps, and you know, you just rub it and the ink comes off pretty easily if you clean it right after stamping. If not, they do still sell stamp cleaners. And then I just take a soft clean rag and dry it off, and then put it back into its packaging or my binder where I store my stamps. Okay, so that's the solvent ink. And next I'll show you an example of the Memento ink, which is a dye-based ink. This is the ink that is recommended for Copic coloring. That way your lines won't smear. I'm just inking up my stamp. Make sure I get it nice and well covered. And then I'll come over here, stamp it straight down. Even pressure all over the stamp. Let's make sure we get these edges this time. I'm having a feeling it's the stamp I'm using. That's why I'm having problems getting a good image. Plus the fact that I have not stamped on this mat before. See, I got a pretty good image except for over here on the left side, so there's still something wrong with my stamping. Which is alright. I'm not going to redo this video. I want you to see my mistakes. That way you can learn from them. You know, this wasn't intentional making mistakes, but hey, since it's happening, I'm going with it. You know, many times you're gonna redo your stamping because it doesn't come out just how you want it, and that's alright. It's part of stamping. You know, sometimes you'll have great days and you can stamp images like no tomorrow and never make a mistake. Other times you're going to have a ton of problems, and well, that's just the way it goes, right? So now that my stamp is clean, I'm going to go ahead and dry it off real quick and remove it from the block. I'm going to switch to a different stamp so I can show you some of those. I'll try some of the other inks with the other stamps here. Let me just find the lid for my ink pad. Seems to have disappeared. There it is. I have too much stuff on my table right now. Okay, so let me just move this over a tiny bit so we can stamp right here. That was the clear acrylic stamp I was stamping with, the one that says many thanks there. Next I'm going to show you the polymer stamps, clear polymer, photopolymer, excuse me. They're called polymer too, just short for photopolymer. Okay, so next we have our photopolymer clear stamp. I'm going to use the pigment ink on this one. So I'm going to just ink it up really well, and what I do when I have larger images like this is I ink it upside down. I take the pad to the stamp. It makes it a little bit easier to see that you're getting even coverage. That looks like I've got enough ink on there, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over and stamp. Again, holding both ends. stamping straight down onto my page. Firm, even pressure. And then lift it straight back up. And there you go. And that is a pigment ink there. I didn't quite get enough ink on the stamp, or press hard enough, I guess. But that's alright, that one looks pretty good. I'm happy with that one. I would use it on my project. But if you're going for perfection, you certainly could restamp it. That's not an issue either. It takes all of a couple minutes to restamp something, so it's not a big deal. Alright. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the rubber stamps. You know what? I'm not. I'm going to stop here so that sorry, I tend to over clean my stamps too. Did you notice? I'm going to stop here and make a part 3 to show you the red rubber stamps and the, which are also commonly referred to as cling mounted stamps, and to show you wood mounted stamps, a couple techniques for inking those and getting good images. So meet me back for part 3, please, and I hope you're learning something from me, even though I'm doing really poor stamping tonight. Thank you. See you in a few minutes. Welcome back to part 3 of Stamping Basics for Beginners. This should be the last part, and I'm hoping I can link all 3 together to make just one video. That's what I'm going to try to do. Hopefully it won't be too awful long. But, alright, so we left off, I had stamped the clear acrylic stamp in StazOn and Memento ink. This is the solvent-based ink. This is the dye-based ink. And then I stamped the photopolymer stamp on in the cranberry color here. That's a pigment-based ink. And then I need to still show you how to do the cling-mounted stamps. You can use these on the same clear blocks that you use for your clear stamps. Sorry, I'm having trouble tonight. What I want to do with this one though is I'm just going to lay it on my page right where I want to stamp it, and I'm going to use the Fisker's press to show you how that works. So I just place it over my stamp like this, and then one hand on each side, fingers in all corners, and press straight down to pick it up, and then flip it over, and then I'm going to do this one in the chalk ink. Hopefully you'll be able to see the difference between the inks. I know this isn't a great video as far as showing you the differences, because my ink pads need to be refilled, and it's my first time stamping on this this pink mat. I guess I should have done a trial run so that I could get good images for you, but I think you get the basics, the gist of it. So I'm just going to ink up my stamp. This is the chalk ink. And hopefully my fairy will turn out nice and green. Okay, that looks pretty good, I hope. So then you just turn the press over and put it where you would like it, position it where you would like it on your page. Again, both hands, one on each side, fingers in each corner, straight down, then walk your fingers to the inside, press firmly to make sure you have a good stamped image, and then carefully pull your hands back to the outside and then let it spring back up, and there you go, a beautiful image. That's with the chalk inks. That's actually not a bad image for chalk ink. Sometimes you'll notice that you get fuzzy lines. That's just a characteristic of the chalk ink. It's not something wrong with your stamping. It's that's just the way chalk ink is. I cannot show you the Versamark because I don't have any dark paper within reach, and I don't want to run over on this video, so I just want to go ahead and move on to the wood mounted stamps and show you how to use those briefly. So I'm going to turn my paper over and use the back side. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and use my Memento ink, which is a dye-based ink. And I tend to like to ink my stamps upside down like this, so I can see when I have enough ink on there. You know, it's a personal preference. You know, you're just going to have to play around with it and see what you prefer. I prefer this way. Other people like to take their small stamps and just into the ink pad. I like to do it this way. So again, just hold it firmly. Stamp straight down, even pressure. I tend to go a little overboard with the wood stamps because I don't use them as much, and I want to make sure I get a good image. And then when you feel you've got a good image, just lift straight up, and there you go. And then you can also use the Stamp-A-Majig to position it exactly where you would like it on your page. If you would like to see that in action, just let me know and I'll do a separate video. I don't want to make this too awful long. You guys will get tired of watching my videos. So I just want to show you one more thing, and I probably should have stamped that somewhere other than in the center of the page, because what I want to show you next is a large wood mounted stamp and how to ink it up and get a good image with that. So let me just finish drawing off my little stamp here and I'll move on to the large one. Alright, this stamp here, this stamp is 4 inches by 5 inches. It's a large stamp. They do come even larger than that, but this is a pretty good size stamp. Now, I do not recommend that you ink it up and stamp it like you do the smaller stamps, because you will not get a good image. You will inevitably have areas in the center that don't get good contact with your paper. So what I do is flip it over, and yes, this stamp has been well loved. It's nice and stained up with ink. That's not going to hurt anything. It has been cleaned, it's just stained. It doesn't hurt the image at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and ink this up, make sure I have enough ink on it. That's a key thing, you know. If you think you have enough ink, add a little more ink. That's my rule of thumb. You know, ink is cheap enough. You can buy the re-inkers so that you can ink your stamps properly. I think that's pretty darn good. So what I'm going to do now is just get my paper out from under the stamp. Okay. And what I do is I leave my stamp face up like that, and I take the paper to the stamp. And this is probably going to overlap that little thank you, but I'm hoping not. But just take your paper straight down to the stamp. Hold the paper firmly with one hand and take your fingers and rub the stamp so that you get ink coverage over the entire, you get the inked image all over your paper there. So you hopefully you won't have any spots that didn't come through. And when you think you've rubbed it enough, rub it a little more. Some people take a brayer and run it across the top of this. That works also. I have a brayer, I just never get it out. So I just use my fingers. I don't have a problem with that. You usually get a pretty good image this way. And then when you think you've rubbed it enough, just go ahead and lift it off. Right like that. And there you go. Nice perfect image. So I hope that this little tutorial has taught you a couple things about stamping. I can't tell you what to buy, what inks to buy, or what stamps to buy, or you know, what paper to buy. It's all personal preference. What I recommend, if you're just starting out stamping, buy some of the cheaper or less expensive stamps and ink pads and play around. See how you like it. You know, you can always use a coupon to get a StazOn ink or a Memento ink. You know, 40 or 50% off, and they're pretty affordable. You know, just play around with it. You know, it's all trial and error. That's all I can say. You know, there's no right or wrong. There's just try it and see what works for you. Let's see. I think that's about all I wanted to cover in this video. I'm sure I'm forgetting some things, and I'm sure my friends will remind me what I'm forgetting. Which is alright, I don't mind. If there's anything that you would like to see covered that I did not cover in this little series of videos, please leave me a comment below and let me know, and I will see what I can do about doing another video for you. Thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. Have a great evening, and we will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.